What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the MLB Early Live Before Lock / strategy show, in whatever capacity you would want to call such this show. I'm Eric Lindquist, excited to be talking this 6-gamer that we have for the early slate and a 7-game main slate. And I got just the guy to kind of break it all down for us. He's on the move. He's Chris Pennell. He's my guy. Go follow him at ChrisPennell16 on the Twitters. How you doing, my traveling dude?
Doing well. I'm a little nervous for this show. Not in my normal spot. Don't have my computer. We are working on the laptop I got as a freshman year of college. So we'll see how the Wi-Fi holds up. Hopefully it's good, but we do have 2 pretty fun slates today to break down.
I get to be the handsomer person of the duo then today because you're pixelated and it makes me feel better about myself. So yay me. How about that? You youngling. How old are you, by the way? Is that an appropriate question?
I just turned 23 a couple months ago.
Fuck you. Okay, we're going to start the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I'm 34. It's fine. Let's get right to it here. Yeah, lo-fi Chris. Just troll Chris the entire show. But here's the thing. The analysis is still the same. He's still going to know exactly what to do, right? Right? Maybe.
I think so.
Okay. That's good to know. Travis Demerit scratched as soon as we come into the chat here. I saw Loco. He's going to keep us apprised of everything happening in the old news streets. So those are things to be paying attention to. But Travis Demerit, decent enough hitter here so far for Atlanta in the early going, has been scratched. But we are going to start. We are going to fly through the 7-game main slate on DraftKings and FanDuel. And luckily, the sites, everything was aligned today. We were able to talk the DraftKings and FanDuel slates identically because they broke down the slates identically. There is a God. That's good to know. But you ready to get into the 7-game main? And then we will get to the early slate and give you all the analysis you need there. Yes. That is a definite yes. I'm going to just take
ready to go. Can't wait.
Okay. There we are. Let's ride. We're going to get into it. Minnesota minus 130 at Baltimore, 7.5 in this new pitcher's park that we've been blessed with. Dylan Bundy on the mound with his 22.6% K percentage, 2.29 expected ERA. Oh my God, if my Twins have an actual pitching staff this season, it could get nasty. Kyle Bradish on the other side, 1 start, only, minimal strikeouts, 8.7% K percentage. So really not anything to mine out of there other than 1 whip. Decent enough start for a guy early on prospect. I know that there's been some hype around him, but let's start with the Bundy side. How does he stand out in a new pitcher's park, it might seem, against a bad offense?
Yeah, normally I wouldn't be too happy about using pitchers in Baltimore, but so far this season, the pitching has been pretty solid here and the bats really aren't exploding. I mean, I know overall this season the scoring is down, but I think Dylan Bundy versus Baltimore, an offense that we should definitely not be too concerned about, is actually in a decent spot. He's been okay so far to start the season. I know overall, larger sample size, Dylan Bundy's about a 4.3 xFIP pitcher. Obviously nothing to get too excited about, but strikeouts about 20% so far this season. I think he's a decent play versus a pretty poor offense.
Yeah, and Kyle Bradish on the other side, I think that there's been some hype. I might have understated it, but I didn't see a whole lot in AAA to say, oh, he's going to be the future and he's a prospect we need to be paying attention to. And the top pitchers tool shows like he's going a little bit over-owned. Dylan Bundy is going about appropriately owned. I strongly prefer Bundy, but there's a massive $2,800 gap between the two on DraftKings.com. How much Bradish do you see yourself landing on today?
I don't think I'm going to get too many here. I'm not just trying to suck up to you because I know you're a Minnesota fan, but I do think the Minnesota bats. What was that?
I said, good man. Yeah. We're back on track. See, we're friends again. You 23-year-old joke. Go ahead.
But yeah, the Minnesota bats, while sometimes they do struggle a little bit, they still have great power in Byron Buxton. You have Carlos Correa, Jorge Polanco, Max Kepler, Gary Sanchez down there at the bottom. I know he's dirt cheap, but I mean, I don't really think we're gonna get too much here out of Bradish. I have 4.1 implied team total for the Twins. I don't think we need to go this low on pitching on the early slate or the main slate tonight. I'd rather get to some of the better options. So I don't see myself going with too many, but if you are trying to get some really expensive stacks and bats overall, I wouldn't hate taking a couple of shots just because the pitching in Baltimore has been pretty solid this year, but overall I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to go completely nuts on Bradish for me. He's going to go over owned. He has a top 2 value percentage that looks nifty. He's the most valuable. Well, no, that's the wrong way of saying it. He's got the top value score out of every pitcher, but I think I would prefer Kikuchi, which is a ridiculous thing to say out loud, and I can't believe I just did, but there might be more strikeouts. If I'm hunting upside for somebody to beat out Giolito, Peralta, Nestor Cortez, Dylan Bundy, those kind of guys, I'd rather go to Kikuchi. And that just tells you what kind of a slate it is. Very top heavy here in terms of pitchers, but in terms of stacks here, Baltimore don't really have a whole lot of interest going to them attacking Bundy, but I think Minnesota always going to be in play for me. There's going to be a little negative leverage there, but I mean, if you simply remove somebody like Byron Buxton from your stack, you also hurt your chances of having a top upside type score, but you definitely remove a lot of that ownership because he is always a popular one-off, always a popular bat in that lineup. Who sticks out to you specifically from Minnesota?
Yeah, besides Byron Buxton, I think a couple of these lefties like Max Kepler. Max Kepler was a guy a couple years ago. I was playing him almost every single day. He just had a ton of power. Still has some pop. Did have a double-donger day, I believe, around a week ago. But Kepler, Arias, Carlos Correa, Jorge Polanco, this entire lineup in the middle looks pretty solid. But again, Byron Buxton, always going to be a popular play. But if you do leave him off, you can get some leverage. Although, like you said, it really does cap your upside because he is the big part of that offense.
85 WRC plus for the Baltimore Orioles against right-handed pitching for the season. 106 ISO. I don't know how I really land on anything. Cedric Mullins, who was revelatory last season for them, has been very bad. I'm trying to not swear again because I kind of, unloaded the clip right off the bat in my distaste for you and your age. But either way, Byron Buxton on the Twin side, I don't really see a comparable bat for Baltimore on the other side where I want to play anybody as a one-off even. Anything stick out to you from Baltimore?
Besides Trey Meany's price point, $700, he's actually always had some decent splits versus right-handed pitching. Dirt cheap. I think Ryan Mountcastle's fine. Austin Hayes is fine, but I do usually prefer a lot of these guys versus lefties as far as power goes. So overall, it's just not a lineup I don't think I'm going to get too much.
Who's the batter one more time? It cut out for a second.
I apologize. Trey Mancini. He's always had some
Trey Mancini. Okay.
Versus same-handed. Yeah.
Yep, and he's smacking the baseball right now. 52.5% hard hit percentage, 577 expected slugging. We can definitely land there. We move on. New York Yankees, 4.3 implied runs against the Blue Jays, 3.7 up in Canada. Blame Canada. Nestor Cortez, 35.9% K percentage in the early going. Very tough matchup, but on the other side too, Kikuchi, he's cheap. He's somebody that I think I might land on. Let's talk pitchers. Let's start with Cortez. I feel like this is a guy that's going to go under owned. I don't think anybody really believes that what he's going is going to continue, but he seems to be the lowest owned out of everybody on the top end the last few slates he's appeared. I'm always going to be interested in that when he's going to be 10%, yet a top two pitcher percentage of 23.7%. Are you with me?
So Cortez has been a very solid pitcher since last season. We're talking about 29% K rate, 3.4 xFIP, or 3.4 CR, 3.79 xFIP, and hasn't really walked too many guys either. And so far to start this season has been overall very solid. The thing is, he's priced very highly, close to $10,000, and you have guys like Giolito and Freddie Peralta on a discount on this slate, who I personally think are in a lot better spots, not facing the Toronto Blue Jays. So for me, up top, Cortez is a decent pivot option in tournaments, but as far as cash games go, I'm probably not going to get there in this matchup.
All right. And we're looking, guys, we always do this. We have always been doing this from the beginning of time. We covered the afternoon slate, then we covered the early slate. There's only one game that locks at 9:40 my time. So what's 12:40. So we're going to cover that. We'll talk about every other thing that exists there, because then you have another half hour for every other game. There's double headers, there's things going, but we always cover the afternoon, the main slate, if you will. Then we cover the early stuff here on Live Before Lock. We're going to fly through this one today because I know we're a little bit crunched for time. So I want to make sure that we get that all available to you. So don't worry, hang tight. We're going to fly through this one for you. Kikuchi on the other side. He is a guy that we absolutely need to be looking at in terms of value, even though he's been very bad. 508 expected slugging, 18.1% K percentage, walking dudes at a ridiculous clip as well, 18.1%, but that is way up from average for him. He's around a career 8.8% walk percentage guy. Yeah, he's been brutal, but you get some Yankees that are super potent, but can definitely provide some Ks. I prefer him over trying to take a shot on Bradish. Do you? Maybe. Maybe not. Uh-oh. You got it? Hello?
I got it. Yeah, we're
there
good.
You are. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Kikuchi, I do think he's an interesting cheap option. The matchup is obviously awful versus the New York Yankees. They have a ton of power. They've been hitting the ball really well recently. But Kikuchi does have some solid numbers overall if you're dating back since 2021. I know it's so far the season hasn't been too pretty. The walk rate has definitely been up. Still a guy that has always struggled with walks, they're around 10% walk rate dating back to last season, but a sub 4x 24% K rate. It's a very high risk, maybe medium to high reward for Kikuchi, but he's dirt cheap, and I feel a little bit better getting to him over Bradish on this slate, and I feel like you have a similar standpoint on that as well.
Yes, I do. Yep, similar standpoint, but the Yankees, positive leverage to be had against Kikuchi. Sign me up for that pretty much every day of the week. Even against Nestor Cortez, Toronto going to have positive leverage. Stack up both. There's great batters. We know who they are. Who are your favorites to get you from both teams?
Yeah, so for me over on the Yankee side, Aaron Judge has just been tearing the cover of baseball. Like every single day, he is just absolutely on fire. I know he's very expensive, close to 6K, but we know he crushes left-handed pitching. Definitely one of the top overall bats in the entire slate. Giancarlo Stanton, the guy I always love versus lefties. He's in the mid 4K range. I like that price point a lot. DJ LeMahieu, solid contact guy. Always a good chance for him to rack up runs. Like him quite a bit. Anthony Rizzo, lefty on lefty. People will probably skip over that, but he's been hot so far to start the year, and I don't think we should really fade him in a lefty on lefty matchup. So if you are full stack on the Yankees, you should get some decent ownership on Anthony Rizzo just because of that. And then after Josh Johnson, we kind of fall off quite a bit. So the top 5 is probably the best way to go here. And as far as the Toronto Blue Jays, guys like George Springer, Vlad, Bichette, and Chapman and Kirk are probably the ones I want to get to.
All right. We've got a super chat here as well from Clayton Askew. Appreciate it. $5 right off the bat this morning. Awesome stuff. Really appreciate that. With the ball being dead now, Chris, should we tone down the home run hunting and lean more on OBP and stolen bases in our builds?
For me, that's not something I'm personally going to do. We still need to get that home run upside, which I know the ball has been completely dead so far this year, but it's not something I'm willing to do is just sacrifice going for home runs because I think in the long run, it's still going to be the best way to go about it.
All righty. Well, let's keep on moving. 2 games down. We've got 5 more to go here on this late on the main slate. They'll fight for the early slate. Don't you worry, everybody. Los Angeles Angels, Boston Red Sox. Reed Detmers on the mound going up against Garrett Whitlock here. Reed Detmers seems serviceable. Looking at the top 2 pitchers percentage, it's going to be a spot where he's not really going to be a priority for me, but there's positive leverage to be had there. He's 8K, only 4% ownership, 10.7% top 2 pitcher percentage. Yeah, I'm going to be playing a little bit. How about you?
I think Detmers is okay to get to at his price point. It's not over the moon, and we know he's got some decent stuff. Problem is, I don't really love the matchup here versus Boston. Obviously, they have plenty of potent bats. You have Trevor Story, Rafael Devers, Xander Bogaerts, Jay Martinez, Kike Hernandez. Very, very solid lineup top to bottom. Plus, it's a hitter-friendly park over in Fenway. But I do think getting to some Devers is fine in tournaments, but I would not go there in cash games.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I'm looking at, on the other side, though, Garrett Whitlock, what a start for him. 9.4% top 2 pitcher percentage. Strange to see him with a little bit lower top pitcher percentage. Kind of going to be interesting to see where ownership comes on him. Bradish, some of these other cheapies that are further down the board as well. We'll see if anything's really in flux, but I do not prefer going down to Bradish. I know he'll be a salary saver a lot of other people go to. I've already talked about Kikuchi, but I mean, Garrett Whitlock, if this guy can end up being serviceable for the Red Sox, I mean, this is something that could be really positive for them, having another starter added into the mix. He's only gotten up to 61 pitches so far this season. I think that's why you're seeing some kind of uncertainty, but it's not because of the stuff. 0.54 ERA, 0.78 whip here in the early going of this season. Looks like he's a phenomenal pitcher, but will he get to a high enough pitch count that you might roster him today?
So at his price point, I think I'm gonna need more pitches for him to be viable in my lineups. Like I know he's got really good stuff. We're talking about a sub 3 Sierra, a 28% K rate, doesn't really walk too many guys. The problem is the season, 48 and 61 pitches in his last 2 starts, has not gotten above 4 innings. I need more upside of that at nearly $8,000. So for me personally, it's gonna be a pass.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. I mean, for me, against an Angels lineup on the other side, and then it becomes a bullpen situation, so it's tough. Man, you could play Trout or Ohtani. Seem like good ideas that you could land on some of the best hitters in baseball. You got this other cat in Taylor Ward who's come along for the ride, now up to 5,200. Really expensive bats. I think that's what's really difficult about landing on the Angels, but we know what kind of upside they can have. Are the Angels a team that you'll stack up today one of the most positive leverage. In fact, on DK, the most positive leverage team of the slate.
Yeah, I think it's interesting for tournaments. The problem is when you're looking at it, they're going to see a decent amount of Garrett Whitlock in this game. He's been a phenomenal pitcher so far to start this season. Then you're getting a bunch of fresh bullpen arms. We have a team total below 4 here for the Angels. But the thing is, these are really good batters. Taylor Ward has been on fire to start the season. We have Brandon Marsh up there up top. He's okay. But we have Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani, Anthony Rendon, Jared Walsh. It's a very potent lineup. So while they have a low team total, like you said, that leverage score over on the top stacks tool is definitely something I want to consider and get to in tournaments.
All right. Well, Boston on the other side, I bet they get some attention going up against Reed Detmers, as good as he's been for the most part this season. This is still a spot where Boston power up and down the lineup. I would like to see Trevor Story start regressing. I saw something on Twitter the other day, below a 90 WRC plus for a guy that's making $1 bazillion now, nine-figure contract. Oopsie. But 485 expected slugging still for Reed Detmers. That's serviceable enough where I think you can definitely get to some Boston bats. Are you with me?
Yeah, I love the Boston offense. So many good bats. I know Trevor Story hasn't exactly been on fire so far to start the year, but do a power speed combination with Story up top. Rafael Devers lefty on lefty spot. I feel like a lot of people will probably skip over him. So if you're looking to get different in tournaments, do not forget about Rafael Devers. I know he's super expensive and the splits do fall off versus left-handed pitching, but at some point, if you're expecting the Boston stack to do well, I'm sure they're going to see you ready at some point. So Devers will be firmly back in play. Center Bogarts crushes lefties. J. Martinez, he's always been good versus lefties. Kike Hernandez. Bobby Dalbec's got some decent power down there, batting 7th. He's only $3,000. I think he could be a cheap home run on this slate. So definitely think the Boston bats look pretty good. Are they my favorite stack? No, but they are certainly serviceable tonight.
Chicago White Sox, 3.8 implied runs against the Cubbies in Wrigley here. We've got Lucas Giolito. He's really good at pitching baseballs. He's going to be the most popular pitcher on the slate. He should be 54.3% ownership. He's optimal nearly a third of the time, or over a third of the time. I mean, this guy stands out in terms of matchup, in terms of opportunity, in terms of stuff. I think he just checks every single box. He's going to be my highest owned pitcher today on both sites. Is he going to be yours for the main slate?
As of right now, he's in a close race with a couple guys, but I think there's a pretty strong chance that Lucas Giolito ends up being my highest owned pitcher. I mean, the numbers speak for themselves: 3.5 xFIP, nearly 29% K rate. Pretty good matchup here versus the Cubs. While they do have quite a bit of power in that lineup, they still strike out quite a bit. And, Lucas Giolito can rack up the strikeouts. So low implied team total for the Cubs. I think Giolito is in a fantastic spot in this slate.
I'm with you. I'm not with you if you want to roster Kyle Hendricks, but I don't think you do, because you strike me as a smart lad, you 23-year-old chipper human being. 7,400 for him, DraftKings.com, 17% ownership, 10.6% top 2 pitcher percentage. Whatever. If you land him in a couple lineups here against a White Sox offense that's missing Eloy Jimenez, that has, some definite pop, but the wind is blowing in 8 miles an hour to 10 miles an hour there at Wrigley today. I think you could land on a couple lineups, but my God, if I ever prioritize Kyle Hendricks on anything other than a showdown slate, just come over, save me, because I've been kidnapped. Kyle Hendricks, anybody that's any kind of a priority for you today?
I'm right there with you. I don't think I ever roster Kyle Hendricks, no matter the circumstances. Maybe if it was a 2-game slate and he was facing like Pittsburgh or something, but outside of that, I just never play Hendricks. I mean, 17% K rate, a 4.6 xFIP. He's as boring as it gets. He's a serviceable real life pitcher, but as far as DFS goes, he rarely shows you that upside the takedown tournament. So I think he's a pretty good fade for me today.
All right. Well, I'm going to do this. We're going to, let's do the offense here super, super quick. I still think as good as Giolito, I'm not going to stack up against any Cubs interest whatsoever.
No, outside of maybe Rafael Ortega leading off or Suzuki, I don't think I could get to any Cubs.
I'm with you. And then on the other side, I will target Hendricks every day ending in Y. I think the White Sox are a team that, in terms of leverage, I would be very surprised if they ended up popular. Sure enough, only 3% ownership share. I said the wind's blowing in, but it's Kyle Hendricks. There's guys like Tim Anderson in this lineup. We have obviously my boy, Luis Robert. I love that human being. We get Jake Berger, who's starting to show a little bit of a bat here, which is enjoyable. Jose Abreu, Gavin Sheets. What stands out to you from the White Sox to round out this game?
Yeah, I think all of them look pretty good. Now, we do have a pretty low implied team total for the White Sox. These guys can get a little pricey up top, but I'm not too concerned about it because Kyle Hendricks does not miss bats. These guys are going to make contact. A lot of these guys do have very solid power. Tim Anderson, more of a contact guy, but he does have some pop in his bat. Luis Robert, $4,600, probably my favorite play from the White Sox. And I really like that price point on Jose Abreu, but you can also like, yes, money Grandal catcher, just never really a position I pay up for a premium too much, but at $4,200, I think he's fine as a bit of a mid-range play there. But the White Sox, even though they do have a little implied team total, I'm still willing to get to them.
All right, we're more than halfway through this main slate, and we're going to get to all the things that are the early slate. We know you guys are craving that content, so we'll fly. But first, if you're craving our content, $7 for 7 days of Awesemo Plus Platinum right now, 77% off, lucky sevens. Look at that. It's not alliteration, whatever it is. It's duplication. It's saying the number 7 over and over again. But simply go to the checkout, use promo code Luca when you sign up for Awesemo Plus Platinum, and you will get 7 days for $7. Not just for the MLB, not just for the NBA, which I know you guys love. I'll be on NBA Live before lock, breaking everything down leading up to lock again today. But we have F1 projections. Are you in the F1 streets, Chris?
No, I have some friends that do, but some of those slates start at weird times.
Well, NASCAR, definitely check out the Top Drivers tool. I know you're a part of things on that end, so check that out. We have USFL content, tennis, soccer. Every niche sport has an opportunity for you to get the access to the player projections, ownership projections for just $7, plus all the great tools and content. Stop guessing, start winning. Join us here at Awesemo Plus today. All right, 3 more games. Here we go. We got Cincinnati Reds, 2.6 implied total. This will be the fastest team we talk about ever. Like Tommy Pham, it seems like is hitting a home run every other day, but I can't imagine I roster a single guy from the Cincinnati Reds with their 2.6 implied total up against Freddie Peralta. He stands out as, if you're not going to land on Giolito, the other signature pitcher of the main slate. How does he stack up? Would you prefer Freddie Peralta or Lucas Giolito in their respective spots?
That's why I was hesitant to talk about Lucas Giolito being my absolute favorite pitcher on the slate, because Freddie Peralta, his price point's a little bit lower, and we're talking about like a 2.5 implied run total against him, and he's got a very solid number. I mean, 3.6 xFIP, 33% K rate. Can he walk some guys? Sure, but I'm not too concerned about the Cincinnati Reds lineup. I mean, if you're looking at it, there's some creative players. I believe you have a guy named TJ Friedel at the bottom of the order projected right now. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't like Freddie Peralta. I mean, the Milwaukee Brewers are one of the top stacks on the slate. I think he's got good win equity. I love the price point. He's makes a really strong case to be the number 1 pitcher despite price point.
Well, let's just disregard Vladimir Gutierrez with his 13.3% K percentage and 18.1% walk rate. Limited expected slugging, 413. That's much improved for him, but a 365 xWOBA. He's not good at pitching. I will have 0 shares of him. I think Milwaukee, as much as they are negatively leveraged, I'm going to find unique ways to add them to the portfolio. Anything about Gutierrez that stands out to you? And then are we just full bore with Milwaukee?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything I could say nice about Gutierrez just to fill airtime here. So I'm just going to say he's a bad play today. I will not get to him. But as far as the Brewers go, lots of good plays here. Obviously, the lefties are going to look really nice with Colton Wong, Christian Yelich, Rowdy Tellez, Omar Narvaez. But do not be afraid to use the righties here. I mean, it's full on stack for me with the Brewers versus Gutierrez. Everyone's a good play. And as far as getting different, maybe just targeting the bottom half of the order or just leaving off guys like Christian Yelich, Colton Wong at the top of the order, but I don't really want to do that, but it's a way to get a little different.
Yeah, I don't want to do it either. Yeah, I know what you mean because we're trying to reduce some ownership. I will say, if we're trying to get a little bit different in terms of what the ownership looks like right now, I think we can look at a guy like Lorenzo Cain sub 10%. I don't like it. I didn't enjoy saying it out loud, but I'm just saying there's things that you can do, especially in an outfield spot. He's cheap. It just kind of works out in some lineups and some builds where I might reduce a little bit of ownership that way, or make them your secondary stack. Have them as the 2 or the 3 portion of your stack. If you're going 5-3s, 5-2s over on DraftKings.com, definitely another option for it. Let's keep it rolling because, again, I want these people to get to their coverage they want of this early slate. God forbid we don't cover the early slate. Oh, but this one, Washington Nationals, 4.8 implied runs in Coors Field, taking on the Rockies with 5.7 implied runs. Patrick Corbin versus Austin Gomber. Austin Gomber, ground ball specialist, going up against Washington. That's why you're kind of seeing the 4.8. The ball's dead, yes, but there's going to be a ballpark. Yesterday, I ran 150 Coors Field lineups with 120 national stacks and 30 Colorado stacks. Ended up making money just barely on the slate because, it just ended up being one of those spots where you needed to have the right combination of everything still from that Washington stack. So I just kind of said, screw it. I'm going to just embrace some of the variance of things on a 6-game or a 7-game slate. I mean, I never do that with Coors Field, but against Austin Gomber, it's going to be really hard for me to think that I want to land on as much Nationals as the field, if any. How about yourself?
Yeah, I actually like Austin Gomber. I think he's a decent enough pitcher. 4x FIP, 23% K rate. I used him many times last year, and he was actually pretty solid. I thought he was always underpriced. Now, at the same time, this is Coors Field. I think the Nationals do have some decent bats that we can target, but it's definitely not as appealing as it was last night. So I'll definitely be less exposed to the Nationals than whenever I was yesterday.
Yep, I'm with you. It's just a completely different set of situation. And plus, I thought people might thin out their lineups a lot, and it looked like they kind of did. I mean, Boston ended up really popular. A lot of teams that ended up really, really popular on the slate yesterday that I just didn't think were in as good of a spots as just jamming jamming Washington. And then obviously I jammed some Rockies on the other side. That sucked because I still had a lot of 5-2 where I needed to have some of those Rockies bats kind of go off, but such is life, whatever. You make a little money. We move on to today. Austin Gomber, I'm with you. Just a really good real life pitcher, even if the K stuff, 23% this season, serviceable. I might even have some shares of him. He's 1% owned. Why not? Patrick Corbin, best of luck to you in Coors Field, sir. 519 expected slugging, not the Patrick Corbin of old. Relies on a lot of off-speed offerings, movement in order to try to induce swings and misses. That is obviously muted when you get up to Coors Field. Rockies, highest implied total here of the slate. We look at the top stacks tool, top stack percentage, 19.1%. They're going under-owned at that number. If that's going to maintain, might be a scary situation for me where how much Rockies bats I get to. What is your game plan here with Coors Field today with Patrick Corbin?
Yeah, sometimes you like to fade Coors because it's going to go over-owned, but I think this is one of those spots where I want to attack Patrick. I attack Patrick Corbin at non-Coors slates all the time, so I don't see a reason why I would really want to stop here in Coors Field. You have Connor Joe, who's priced to the moon like he's an elite level player, but if you've got the money for him leading off on the Rockies, the team total close to 6, it's hard not to like it. Blackman, Grichuk, CJ Cron, probably the best play here from the Rockies. He's been on fire so far to start the year, tons of power versus left-handed pitching. I don't see a scenario where I'd touch Patrick Corbin, and I'm definitely a big fan of the Rockies. And like you said, the leverage scores, they're actually not too bad compared to what you would think.
Yep. Cron, Grichuk, even some of the lefties, I don't completely hate it, even though I'm mad at him after yesterday. Ryan McMahon, I needed him badly to exist and do a thing in the world. Remove Brendan Rodgers. I will say, I watched that entire Rockies game yesterday. Brendan Rodgers, I had my iPad going while I was watching the NBA games, and Brendan Rodgers is dust. I don't know what his plate approach is right now, but even against, there's just nothing. 160 expected batting average, 243 expected slugging. If he's in that lineup, God help me, I will just not play him. It is that bad. It is that bleak. So I have 8 Rockies batters that I will have opportunity to get to, but I think I'm with you where it's like Nationals. I think Austin Gomber is serviceable enough. I'm not going to go crazy with them. But then on the Colorado side, definitely want to have some interest there. Let's keep it going. One more game. San Francisco Giants, Dodgers. It was 3.5 and 4 implied runs that we have here on this one. The line was not available. It just came out right before the show, plus 130. Dodgers, 7.5 total here in this one. And we already had the pitchers, so it's weird that line wasn't out, but such is life. Alex Wood versus Tony Gonsolin, 2 very good real-life pitchers. Alex Wood has shown some promise before. Tony Gonsolin's always been a guy that always needed to work deeper into the games to be serviceable from a DFS perspective. But looks like he's got some top 2 pitcher ability on DK and on FanDuel. He's the 5th most likely pitcher to finish optimal on this slate. Is Tony Gonsolin somebody you're looking at rostering today?
I think he's an interesting play. I just wish he wasn't nearly $9,000. I mean, the Giants, while they are missing a couple guys, it's still a lineup that I don't really like to pick on too much, but a low 3.5 implied run total. I could understand getting some Gonsolin. Does have strikeout upside around 25-26% since last season. The problem is those walks can get him into trouble, and him getting fully stretched out has always been an issue as well.
I'm just over it. Whatever. Alex Wood. Alex Wood is a guy that revenge spot, if you will, for Alex Wood. That's fun. I don't know how to factor that in. Once again, that's always my problem with narratives, but whatever. Alex Wood, serviceable pitcher here, but this Dodgers offense, I heard it's pretty good.
It's a rumor I've heard too.
Yeah, it's just rumor around town, and it's about you or whatever that country song is. I can't remember. But Alex Wood, he's going to be completely unowned. If that's going to be the case, I'll take some shots as an SP2. Same thing with Tony Gonsolin, where he's going a little bit under-owned on DK. Both guys I might get to a little bit more than I should. but on FanDuel, any reason to land on an 8,600 Alex Wood against this potent Dodgers offense?
The only reason you would do it is just because anytime you can get a pitcher with a sub 3.4 xFIP and a near 26% K rate since last season is always something you should at least keep in mind. But the problem is when they're facing the NL All-Star lineup, it's usually going to be a bit of an issue here. So while Alex Wood's a good pitcher and going to be underowned, it's still a very, very scary spot. I think there's definitely better pitchers to attack and much better spots on the slate.
Well, another rumor going around town is Mike Yastrzemski is going to be back in the lineup for San Francisco. That definitely makes Tony Gonsolin's job a little bit more difficult in terms of opportunity there. Jock Peterson, I think, back into the fold as well, from what I hear. So those are two things to be paying attention to. You could have both of them back in this lineup. I know Mike Yastrzemski is projected in today's lineup at other places here, so I'm just looking around at that. Jock Peterson is not, so be paying attention to it. Those are two bats that they would like to have in against a righty, and I think would make the stack much, much more interesting for me on a limited game slate, 7 games. I'm still looking at Brandon Crawford. There's no Brandon Belt. That's another bummer. But Joey Bart, I think, is serviceable enough. What sticks out to you from San Francisco against Gonsolin, who's really good? But if we're trying to get different, I don't mind San Francisco.
Yeah, if we can get Yastrzemski back in the lineup, I mean, that's definitely probably the top option I'm going to go to without Brandon Belt, because we know that's the guy I always like to roster versus right-handed pitching. We'll see what happens with Jock Peterson. I know he's in or out, depending on where you look. If he happens to be in the lineup, I know he's pretty expensive, but he does crush right-handed pitching. But for me, not a team I love besides a couple of the lefties.
And Dodgers roster everybody?
Pretty much every single day. Doesn't matter who. Just kind of spin a wheel, grab 5 guys, and you probably end up pretty happy at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's strange to me. The worst 3 hitters so far by all StatCast metrics this season on the Dodgers: Mookie Betts, Trey Turner, Justin Turner. It's unfair that they're having terrible seasons to start off, and they just have everybody behind them. Gavin Lux and Cody Bellinger. How about you guys just be gods for a season? Left on left, I still have interest. It's absurd.
Yeah, I certainly really don't care whether it's a lefty on lefty or righty on righty. I mean, this team is so good. They can knock out pitchers early in the game and they'll end up seeing a righty on lefty or lefty on righty matchup anyway. So I'm never really concerned about it. Just grab the 1 through 5 if you can, 2 through 6, whatever you want to do. And usually it ends up working out with how good this offense is.
All right. Well, we got through the main slate, my friend, but it's PrizePicks. They're the sponsor here of the Live Before Lock and Partial Strategy Show, obviously, because we talked the 7-gamer there. We're going to get to the 6-game coverage you guys know and love. But first, PrizePicks. They are a great site that you should go sign up using promo code Awesemo. You'll get $100 first match deposit bonus. Plus, there's no sharks, optimizers, mass entries. It is purely prop-based games. You can play it across multiple sports. So if you want to play NBA along with MLB, along with anything you possibly want, you can parlay all of those together in order to go out and try to make some money. And I think you can do that using the projections we have here at Awesemo. Plus, the free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum you'll get if you have not signed up at PrizePicks just by using promo code Awesemo, using that first $100 first match deposit bonus. You'll get a 1 free month bonus as well of Awesemo Plus Platinum. Doesn't get a whole lot better than that. So download it in the App Store, Google Play, or head to prizepicks.com. They are truly the best. It is such a fun site to go play on. If you don't have legalized sports betting in your state, such as California, where I'm at, you get the opportunity to play at PrizePicks, and it makes it so easy and fun to still take advantage of all the tools and content we have at OddsShopper, that we have in the prop tools, that we have everywhere here on the site. So get that free month, stop guessing, start winning, but do it through PrizePicks. Thank you so much to them for their sponsorship of this Live Before Lock show. All right, my guy, 25 minutes. We are going to fly. We got this covered. We are heading to the first game of the early slate. And part of me wants to really slowly talk through this because people are worried they might not get the info for the one game that locks half an hour beforehand. Okay, I won't do that. Arizona Diamondbacks, 3.3 implied runs. Miami Marlins, 4.2. First game, it locks half an hour before everything else. Ylissear Hernandez, Madison Bumgarner on the mound. You're seeing a 4.2 implied run total there. That's going to kind of be partially why you're seeing 4.2 for the Marlins. And that is, I believe, the highest other than the Houston Astros on this entire early slate. But let's talk the pitchers specifically. Hernandez, going to garner a little bit of attention, just like most pitchers are on a 6-game slate. How does he stack up compared to the rest of the field for you?
Yeah, I actually do like Hernandez quite a bit. I would say he's in my top 5 as far as my pitcher pool goes. That's never really a pitcher I tend to have a ton of interest to, but the Diamondbacks are a team that we can roster pitchers against so far as start the season. I think that can continue. 26.4% K rate to righties so far this year. They're walking a little bit, but I mean, overall, their offense has been pretty bad. 81 WRC plus versus right-handed pitching. Hernandez is good enough where I think we can roster him a little bit. Are his numbers going to jump off the page? Now around 23% K rate. Doesn't walk too many guys, but does give up power. But 14 up for us. Arizona doesn't have too much power here. So I think Hernandez at $8,100. Decent play with a low implied run total against him.
Yeah. Here we go. We're ready to rock. I know it's in 19 minutes the lock is, but this is the only game that locks then. We're going to go 5 minutes over because we're just going to do that. We have no show coming up afterwards. Lots of content coming up later in the day. MLB live before lock, covering those 7 games we just did again. Oh, the horror. And then NBA live before lock and deeper dives. So check those out. Going to be a fun time. But on the other side, Madison Bumgarner, I'm so over this human being. I'm over him as a human being because he's not a good human being, but also over him just in terms of I want to stack against him all the time. I look at Miami. I see a lot of power bats that I want to have access to going up against this awful, terrible, no good, very bad Madison Bumgarner, but he keeps finding a way to do it. It's like the Jesse Pinkman meme. He can't keep getting away with this. How do you feel about Madison Bumgarner on today's slate?
Bumgarner always feels like Eric Fetty to me, where I stack against Fetty and then times they just don't do anything.
Like yesterday.
Yeah, like yesterday. But I'm probably gonna go back to the well here, stacking against Bumgarner. I'm sure it won't work out, and I'll be upset afterwards. But I think on paper it makes sense to do so. Miami Marlins, not a hard stack to get to. We're talking about John Berti, $3,200 up top. Jesus Aguilar, $4,400. Horace Soler, $4K. Garrett Cooper, $3,100. Very, very cheap lineup to get to. You have some righty power bats versus Mad Bum, who we know does give up power to right-handed bats. So I think a little cheap stack here definitely makes a lot of sense because there's not a lot of offense on this slate to like. You're going to see a lot of low implied team totals. So I think Miami does look pretty good.
Yeah, it's disturbing how much they do. There's a little bit of negative leverage, but anything that isn't Detroit, like Detroit is insanely popular on this slate, the most popular team, top to bottom on this entire slate. We'll get to that one, but I look at this as a team, Miami, that you can definitely land on quite a bit. Alluded to some of the power that exists. I think you did as well. Jesus Aguilar, getting him back in the lineup there. Batting second, always good. But even from the Arizona side against Hernandez, we're seeing Varsho. He's always going to garner a little bit of attention. 3,400. He's cheap, has enough power to be serviceable there. Pavin Smith is cheap as well. I think I might prefer Smith, just 2,700, only 6% ownership. That seems decent enough. I like Solera the most from Miami. I mean, there's just a lot of good bats that I like in this game. I might be a little bit lower on pitchers. Hernandez, I'm going to get to a little bit of, but anything really strongly stands out to you from the Arizona side as well?
I always like Varsho. Unfortunately, lost his catcher eligibility, so it doesn't make him as appealing as he used to back in the day. Very sad there. But I like the price on Pavin Smith. I think Seth Beer's a fun play just because his last name is Beer. Always makes it more fun to roster. But outside of that, I think Varsho is really the only guy I want to get to.
Expected name above replacement. I'm trying to come up with a metric of what we were getting at there. Whatever. We continue on. Oh, you 23-year-old kids in the world. San Diego Padres, 3.8 implied runs. Cleveland Indians, 3.2. Welcome back to the fray, Mike Clevenger. Revenge spot? If you get traded to a contender, can it still be revenge? I don't think so. But Clevenger making his debut. Tell the people who don't know about him.
Yeah, I love Mike Clevenger. Not for the slate, really, because I don't think he's going to go too deep into the game. But back in the day in Cleveland, when I was a big Cleveland fan, I always used to watch him. He had really good stuff. A couple years ago, he kind of fell off in his last year in Cleveland a bit. Definitely regressed to north of a 4x FIP. Strikeout rates to disappear. But the year prior to that, the guy was absolutely amazing. Tons of strikeouts. I believe around a 12K per 9. Definitely dipped a little bit, and he hasn't pitched for a while. So I think we should have our expectations kind of low as far as DFS goes for Clevenger, because I can't imagine he's going to go too deep into this game. The Cleveland lineup, I will say today, looks pretty bad. Like at the bottom half, we had Almine Rosario, Hunter Jimenez, Luke Maley, and Richard Palacios, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Not a pretty lineup from the bottom half here. Obviously, in the top half, you have guys like Miles Straw, Stephen Kwan, Jose Ramirez. Jose Ramirez really being the only bat I'm too concerned about here. Clevenger is interesting, but I do think the upside is going to be capped.
Yeah, I think so too. Clevenger, 67 pitches was his total in his last AAA outing. So I think we can expect 70, 75 tops. So it's a short enough slate where I still think that if we see him come out with his typical stuff that we've seen once upon a time, that there's a case to actually landing on a little bit on this kind of a slate where Verlander and McGill are your obvious priorities. Wainwright has some possible weather concerns. So we have some things to be paying attention to in that regard. but it doesn't help that he's the third most expensive pitcher on the slate on DraftKings. On FanDuel, I don't think we can really get to him whatsoever because of that pitch count, right?
Yeah, and plus when you're only picking one pitcher on FanDuel, you got to make sure
Exactly.
he's going to get his upside, and I don't think Clevenger's going to do that.
Yeah, he's a guy that's going to land in like one or two in the back end. At Eric Lindquist, Dingleberry. Thanks. I don't know. I mean, you're a Dingleberry, or I don't think that's complimentary. Anything that says Dingleberry, probably not complimentary, but you know what else?
Yeah.
You can just enjoy chat today. Looking at Zach Plesac on the other side, I have zero interest in rostering him. The strikeout stuff isn't even there. I think the nicest thing you can say is that he is under-owned on DraftKings, but I think I would prefer even Bryce Wilson just for a complete punt play at 5,800. Plesac is 8K. This isn't a guy on your beloved Cleveland Guardians that we're going to land on at all, is it?
No, I know I like to tie up the Indians, the Guardians, but I cannot do that today.
Did it again.
It's too hard.
Cancel Chris.
You can go ahead and cancel me. I'll get it. 4.7 xFIP though, 16% K rate. He doesn't walk many guys. That's probably the nicest thing I can say about Plesac. He doesn't walk guys, but
yes,
at the same time, he's going to give you a lot of contact, and he's just not that great. Does give a decent amount of power. 185 ISO, 190 ISO, dating back to last season. So I'd rather get to the Padres bats, even though their implied run total is not very high. It's just you can't really get too picky on the slate as far as the offenses go. So I'd rather side with San Diego over Plesac.
Well, here we go. San Diego offense. There's some pieces that we can land on here. Profar batting cleanup. What is going on in the world? Oh, he might be positively regressing. We get Cronenworth up there batting second. Trent Grisham has been bad this season, but against Plesac, I'm willing to overlook a lot of things with his 607 expected slugging and just a 13.3% K percentage. Who sticks out to you from the San Diego side to land on today?
If salary's not an issue, like Manny Machado, as good as he's been so far this year, tons of power in his bat. Don't really care if it's a righty or lefty versus Plesac. He'll give it up to both. If you're hunting for lefties, Trent Grisham, Jake Cronenworth at the top of the order. I think they're fine plays. Dirksen Profar, I know who you were talking about in the pre-show, who you seem to like quite a bit. He said he's been pretty good so far to start the year. Batting cleanup, I think he's fine. The price is up there, though. You're kind of paying a premium, nearly $5,000 for it, so it doesn't feel great. For the top half of the order for the Padres do look pretty good. The bottom half, we do fall off quite a bit.
He's hitting the ball harder than he was before. He still only has a 176 batting average, but he has 5 homers. That helps. Like in terms of DFS purposes, if you're going to hit a home run, once every 2-3 games here, 4,700. I feel like I can land on Jurickson Profar here. I'd rather roster him than Trent Grisham if it's a 1v1 question. So there's that. Matt Beattie, once upon a time with the Dodgers, was one of those highly touted AAA prospects. It never came to fruition. They were willing to part with him there in the offseason. He's 2,200. That could be the savings you need, but my Lord, has he been bad to start off the season. And Trace Thompson just got back into the fray, only 2 games in. I don't really want to be going there, but he is 2K flat. Just throwing it out there. From the Cleveland side, let's say Clevenger just doesn't have his normal stuff. I think there's always a case to be made for a guy making his first start of the entire season, even if it is a guy with the pedigree or the name recognition that we have for a Mike Clevenger, to be able to get to some Cleveland, but they have the lowest top stack percentage, yet are going under-owned. Lots of conflicting information here. Help me make sense of it. Who do you want to get to from Cleveland, if anybody?
Oh, if anybody, it's got to be Jose Ramirez. He's been one of the best players in baseball offensively so far to start the season. But outside of that, this lineup does not look too great today. I was kind of alluding to that when I was talking about Mike Clevenger. The bottom 3 to 4 guys are just, Rosario is not terrible, but man, bottom 3 look pretty rough today. So it might be hard to get some momentum going as far as the entire stack goes. But Josh Naylor's been somewhat fine. But do you really want to pay $5,000 for Owen Miller? That sounds like a really bad time. It's not something I want to do today.
That's shout out to Owen Miller's family. We'll send them this clip after the show and he'll go yard on you. No, he won't, because Clevenger's going to show. I like Clevenger as a pitcher, and I'm more inclined to not play Cleveland. If I were playing 150 today, I would definitely have some Cleveland. But on this show, 13 games, researched 13 games this morning. No thanks. Wasn't really willing to go completely nuts on this early slate. We'll get to the afternoon one and we'll have some fun though. Let's go to Atlanta Braves 3.3, New York Yankees 3.7. Ian Anderson, Tyler McGill, 2 really good pitchers from a real life perspective for Anderson and from a strikeout and real life perspective for McGill here. Let's start with Anderson. In the context of this slate, he's a guy at 7,400 on the DK slate. that I think is very, very interesting. If I had more than 20 lineups today, I would be playing a bunch of him. I think it'd be pretty easy to go double the field. I like the Mets as an offense, no question about it. But he's really the only guy in the top 5 of the top pitchers tool that is cheap and is going underlooked. He's going a little bit under-owned, just slightly. But Ian Anderson, what sticks out to you from him?
The price probably stands out the most because I think $7,400 for him is pretty nice compared to some of these other guys. Like, I feel like he has similar upside to Tyler McGill, and McGill is nearly $10,000 today. And I do like Tyler McGill quite a bit, but the price difference is really what gets me there. He's got a sub-4 xFIP since last season, 23% K rate. The one thing he can struggle with is walks. That was in double digits since last year. Doesn't really give up too much power. The problem is the Mets lineup is pretty good. They do have some power in that lineup, but I think at this price point, we should definitely try to take some stabs at him.
Aaron Rankin is stacking broken. It might be. We got to get more of a sample size. Also, it's not hot yet. It is May 4th. Once the weather starts popping, I'm praying to God that stacking becomes a thing that you see at the top of leaderboards again. And plus, yesterday, you saw 5 mans of Washington all over the place. It can still be done, but there are definitely certain target-rich environments you want to be overexposed to, maybe in a way that you weren't before. Just something to look out for. I don't really have anything that needs to be expounded upon there, but let's talk McGill on the other side of the mound here for the Mets. 25.2% K percentage, 391 expected slugging. Everything about him looks like a really good find for this Mets team. Deep 8th round selection in 2018 for them that has really come to fruition. High 90s fastball. Mixes in that changeup slider combination, and it's just a really good real life pitcher. 2.81 expected ERA so far this season. I think he stands out as the guy that outside of Verlander, I like the most, but is he too expensive for you to not just get up to Verlander?
Yeah, he is expensive today, but if you can find enough value to make it work, which I think you can, I do like Tyler McGill as an SP2 in addition. But Justin Verlander today, he's got the looks like the second highest ownership right now over in the top pitchers tool, but with also the second best chance to be the top 2 pitchers. So I think getting Tyler McGill, despite the price point, is something I certainly want to do today. We know the Atlanta Braves have a fantastic lineup from top to bottom, tons of power, but they will strike out quite a bit versus right-handed pitching. And McGill, getting back since 2021, 26% K rate, 3.6 xFIP, doesn't really walk too many guys. Just a real solid pitcher. I know he doesn't have the name pedigrees of Justin Verlander or anybody else on this slate, but he's been really good, and I still want to get to him despite the high ownership.
I do too. I think he's a really good pitcher that you need to have in your mix. And that kind of just limits any interest that I have trying to target any of these Atlanta bats. Of course, you can play Albies. Of course, you can play Acuna at the top of that lineup whenever he shows up. I think that there's just fine. We saw that we got Heredia added to the lineup. He is terrible. Don't play him. But who sticks out to you from Atlanta if you want to get to anybody?
If I have to get to anybody outside of Acuna, because he's the obvious guy, Matt Olson, this power versus righties, and maybe Marcelo Ozuna batting cleanup at $4,300 is he's got plenty of power, but I mean, a lot of these guys are expensive going up against with a 3.4 implied team total. I don't really want to roster these guys too much.
And on the Mets side, again, Ian Anderson, I talked up just from a real life perspective. I think that 7,400, he gives me some savings if I'm looking for a cheaper SB2 on DK to pair with the likes of a Verlander, the likes of an Adam Wainwright. If that game is good to go here, pay attention to the weather. My God, that's going to be a sweat here at 10 a.m. out here on the West Coast, 35 minutes. So we'll be paying attention closely to that one. But I don't have a ton of interest here in the Mets, and it's a team I've been playing a lot. If you had to play anybody, Lindor would be my guy. Who else sticks out to you?
Francisco Lindor, Brendan Nemo, Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, probably the ones I'd want to get to. I mean, Starling Marte is fine, but he's just so expensive, righty and righty spot. I feel like there's a couple better plays here, but Nemo is probably my overall favorite.
Yep. All right, let's keep it rolling, guys. We got what is it? We got 3 more games. We're halfway through this. We got Pirates, Cardinals, and Mariners. Okay, cool. So we have 10 minutes that we'll be covering that. It is 6 minutes before lock, so make sure you get those lineups in ahead of time for anything that you might want from that Arizona-Miami game. I think there's definitely some opportunity for a couple of them. Not a great park, but a 4.2 implied run for Miami. Hard to completely neglect them. But it's also hard to neglect that we don't have some of the sharpest tools in the industry. And the guys who put them together are now putting them together in a best bets package for you. So if sports betting is something you've been dabbling in, been involved in, come check out the premium best bets package that we have in the premium Discord right now, or head to @Awesemo Best Bets in order to see that one free bet that they're going to post per day. Get a glimpse behind the paywall at what Ben Raza, what Steve Buzzard, and of course, Alex Baker are up to in the betting streets every single day. We're confident that these models, the stuff that they put together are going to be profitable over the long term. So head to @Awesemo Best Bets on Twitter and then sign up for the Best Bets package. Check it out now. 3 games to go, my friend. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Pittsburgh Pirates, 3.6 implied total going up against the Detroit Go Tigers. Bryce Wilson, 15.2% K percentage. He's going to be the long reliever here in this spot. Michael Pineda on the other side. He is terrible. I might have some interest in Pittsburgh. I might be overhyping some of these Pittsburgh bats in my lineups today. Pretty flat leverage, but no reason to go out of your way to roster Michael Pineda today, is there?
No, we talked about that last show where I think Michael Pineda was pitching. We were both firmly on we don't really like Michael Pineda train. That's continuing on this slate, even though it's against not a great Pittsburgh lineup, but I do like Pittsburgh bats quite a bit today.
Yeah, I have Vogelbach, Tsutsugo. You've got, it sucks that they're both first base there in some capacity where you can't roster both on DraftKings.com. Van Meter, we know that he can be a guy of strong splits up against righties. So definitely some opportunity for Pittsburgh bats against Pineda. But however, I find it intriguing that we are getting so much rostership going the way of these Detroit Tigers. I don't quite get it because you're basically seeing an opener followed by Bryce Wilson. It's going to be Dylan Peters, who's a phenomenal real life pitcher, a lefty coming in to just kind of screw things up. They're going to bring Bryce Wilson in from the right side, make that lineup change up a little bit. I really don't like the Tigers at their ownership. They're going to be a strong fade for me today. What are you planning to do with them?
I don't mind getting to some of them, but I don't really agree with the ownership that they're getting. I'm kind of the same way with you. Like, I'm going to play some Detroit stacks. I think they're fine. I'm not too scared of Bryce Wilson and Dylan Peters opening. Bryce Wilson, a guy that I've stacked against him in the past. His numbers overall aren't really solid, but if you're trying to combat chalk, I mean, getting to some Wilson's not the worst idea in the world. If I had to roster anybody from Detroit, I think Austin Meadows, once he gets to the righty Wilson, he's probably going to be the best play from this offensive 4K. We know he has tons of power. I also like Javier Baez, but I kind of agree with you where I'm going to be under the field on Detroit.
Just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to go crazy with them. I do like Vogelbach a lot, Tsutsugo, Killian Hayes, Brian Reynolds, Ben Gamel. I don't understand what a Sawinski is, but that's a thing that exists in the world, and he's been playing quite a bit for this Pittsburgh team. I'm not going to roster him today, but that's kind of clearing the way for that. If you had to roster one Detroit bat to kind of prove me wrong, who would it be?
I'll go with Austin Meadows. I like when he gets up to Bryce Wilson. I think it's a good spot.
Okay. Well, just take the best hitter. That's fine. Go ahead. Let's do it. Let's keep it rolling. 2 more games to get to. We got the St. Louis Cardinals. Weather. Be on the lookout of weather. 4.3 implied runs. Kansas City Royals 3.7. Adam Wainwright. He is apparently still good in his 40s. He is the Tom Brady of baseball. No, that's not a good comp. Whatever. We get what I get at. 22.4% K percentage, 4.38 expected ERA, 1.56 whip. There is some negative regression that's starting to kick in. Are the Royals a team that's dangerous enough that it might stop you from rostering some Adam Wainwright in a scary weather spot?
No, they're not good enough for me to roster against Wainwright. Wainwright's kind of that guy that just, he's old, but he gets the job done. I mean, you could, I don't know, a good NFL comparison better than Tom Brady. I know it's not Tom Brady. Maybe like a Ryan Fitzpatrick, a vet that just keeps going, plugging away.
Yeah, that's better. Fitzpatrick, yeah. That's a much better comp. I was going to say, I said Tom Brady just because he's the old fart that continues to be good, but age is just a number now.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, 3.8 xFIP for Wainwright, 21% carry since last year, doesn't walk any guys, doesn't give much power. The Royals lineup doesn't really have power outside of Perez last year when he just went bonkers. But outside of that, I am not concerned about the Royals. The problem is the weather. So it's just like, how much do you really want to roll the dice? But if you remove the weather from this game, Wainwright, I think, given the pitching options we have on the slate, would definitely be in my top 4, top 5 as far as my pitcher pool goes.
ILB 23. Why not Brian Hayes? He's batting .333 with an .840 OPS. Yes, he's not hit a home run yet this season, but he is going to long-term. He's got the largest contract in Pirates history. Just be on the lookout of that. We're about to be a lock here, by the way, for that first game. So just be paying attention to that. Very, very important here, my friends. But we've got Chris Bubich on the other side. Bubich, he's not very good. Just telling you right now, not ideal. What are you planning to do with these St. Louis Cardinals? 4.3 implied run total, tied for the tops with Houston Astros on the slate.
Yeah, it's never good when we're talking like a 4.3 is the best on the slate. It's just kind of ugly overall for the offenses. But
welcome to the new age.
Yeah, going to be a lot of grounders today, same as usual. But I mean, I like the Cardinals quite a bit here. Bubich is not a very good pitcher, and this is a lineup dating back to last season that was one of the best in the league versus left-handed pitching. Tommy Edman at the top of the order, Paul Goldschmidt, Arenado, Albert Pujols. We have Yepez. At least I say his name. He is batting fifth. He is two. Yepez.
I just want to do a bit where you just read names that you've never seen before. That's great. I enjoyed that. Oh man, that was enjoyable.
Batting middle of the order, he's 2K. Righty on lefty spot. It gets the job done if you're going expensive at pitching. But Tyler O'Neill, tons of power in his bat, hitting a little bit lower in the order these days. But yeah, all these guys look pretty good versus lefties. So I don't mind a Cardinal stack, but I will say they are very expensive up top.
We'll call him the Yepez dispenser.
That's I love what we'll
call him. Yeah, see what I did there? I have alliteration. Give me one Kansas City Royals bat. Pending weather, once again, paid very close attention to this one. Sounds like it could be a late game. I bet the game starts. I just don't know if it ends up finishing. So just be on the lookout there. Give me one Kansas City bat that sticks out to you.
I'll give you two. Ryan O'Hearn, he is batting cleanup. He is free. He has pop versus righties. That's the only nice thing I can say because he's barely going to hit the ball. He's going to strike out quite a bit. But then MJ Melendez, if you want a cheap catcher, left and righty spot, I don't mind that. He had some ownership yesterday.
All right, my friends. Yeah, well, I'm looking at a 974 OPS so far for the Memphis Redbirds for one Yepez dispenser. So there's definitely, he's had some seasons like that before. If you're going through the Peoria Chiefs, he had a 1.058 OPS with like a 596 slugging. So stuff like that will happen. He's obviously hot right now. They called him up, but it's been 6 years that he's kind of been underneath there. He's only 24 years old. So he joined them. He joined the AA, single A ranks pretty darn young. So be paying attention to that. Has he been called up before? Is this his first go in the bigs? It is. That's crazy. I'm going to be watching that now. I always like watching guys make their debut. Enjoyable. One more game to get to. Seattle Mariners, Houston Astros. Matt Brash, not to be brash or anything, but I'm not going to roster him. How about you?
No, I think he's got good enough stuff, but not good enough for me to want to roster against the Astros today. Like, I think long-term he'll be good, but not today.
Yep. Not for me today either. And on the other side of this one, Justin Verlander, here you are, 29.8% K percentage, 2.5 expected ERA. He has Kate Upton for a wife. I trust guys who have Kate Upton as their wife. Do you?
Yeah, I trust Justin Verlander just about every single time. So I'm right there with you.
Okay, cool. Look at that analysis that we had. I don't really know what you want me to say. I mean, he's 10-1. Could he get hit up any random day ending in Y? Maybe, but he's the most popular pitcher on the slate for a reason. He's got the strikeout stuff combined with a great matchup. Everything seems to check out going up against Seattle for Justin Verlander. If you had to roster one Seattle bat, who would it be and why is it Jesse Winker?
I was just about to say it's Jesse Winker, and it's because he crushes right-handed pitching. Outside of that, I can't really make a case for anybody, maybe outside of a Ty France, but I'm never going to pay a $5,600 Ty France versus Verlander. So it's basically just Jesse Winker.
And round it out for us here, the Houston Astros. This is definitely a spot where I think we're looking at a 13.7% top stack potential. They are negatively leveraged, but I find it impossible not to roster my boys, Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker specifically. You get Altuve back in the mix, and then that lineup just becomes a little bit better. We all know that. Your boy Brantley, don't even talk to me about him. Bregman's going to start hitting better. Gurriel's a contact guy. Plus, he doesn't walk. I like this lineup. How about you?
Yeah, the thing is, we're looking at the other offenses on this slate. We've made some cases for some offenses, but really there's nothing to like too much. You have to roster some, but the Astros are finally something I can get to. Matt Brash, good pitcher though. It's not like it's like a super soft matchup for the Astros, but at the same time, it's not an easy matchup for Brash either, where all these bats are really, really good. You have Jose Altuve. He returned recently. That definitely beefs it up quite a bit. You have the best hitter on the team, Michael Brantley, batting second.
Oh my God. Don't listen to that portion. If you're just tuning in, that was a lie.
A little bit of a lie. Solid contact guy versus righties, but no, he does not have much power whatsoever. He's fine if you're looking for just a full-on stack to get contact. Alex Bregman, Yordan Alvarez, Cal Tucker. The two best plays in this offense are going to be Alvarez and Tucker, which I'm sure you probably agree. I mean, tons of lefty and righty power, but you can make a case for all these guys.
Love it. Guys, 9:45, 12:45 out there on the East Coast. I told you we would do it. The haters didn't believe me. The haters said it was fake, but we got it done. Mike Lawrence, Thank you so much for keeping apprised of everything going on. Great job updating everything. We flew. Good times were had by all. Chris, hey, shout out to the internet. Shout out to the house internet. It stayed intact. I got a little nervous to start.
It got better.
Smoothed out as we went along. So apparently the bandwidth just increased throughout the day. I don't know how any of this stuff works, but I do know that you did great work. Any final words for the people?
No, I'm just glad the Wi-Fi gods were nice to us as we progressed. It was a fun time talking. I think we went through it pretty well. It should be 2 fun slates. I'm looking more forward to the main slate tonight, but I'm wishing everyone the best of luck on the other slate.
We covered 13 games in an hour. I mean, that is like next level good stuff. I saw Hernandez gave up a hit right off the bat there. Varsho on the board, confirmed a thing. Let's talk NBA later in the day, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, NBA Deeper Dive. That is going to be Alex Adam. Then 6:30 p.m. Eastern time, myself and Greg. Sounds like we might be mixing that up a little bit here today. There's some stuff going on. We're going to be getting it all done for you. But then PGA Live before lock, Jason Roslin, Ben Rasa, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Looking forward to that. He is Chris. I am Eric. Best of luck. Early slate, main slate, and all the slates in your lives.